The meeting of the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee is now in session. It is Wednesday, November 14th. It is 7:10, and we are at the Charlton Middle School. First thing, we'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of Wednesday, October 24th. Do I have a,
So moved.
okay, a second? Okay. Discussion.
Mrs. Cavallo probably has the same one that I do.
Page 4?
No, I'm on page 2.
Okay. You want to go first?
Okay, see, I called Elaine first. Go ahead.
On the bottom of page 2, the motion is voting in favor in both scenarios. It should be voting against in the last line.
Okay, Kathy?
Yeah, mine's on page 4, B, the third paragraph under B. The subcommittee has identified high priority needs and recommends seeking funds. We didn't recommend, we discussed. We never recommended it. Should be discussed seeking funds. See where I am, Sandy? Okay. Right, subcommittee? Okay. Right, we didn't discuss it.
Anyone else? Okay. All in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Approval of the warrants this evening. We do have warrants that will make its way around the table. And citizens forum this evening. Do we have anyone that would like to come up to address us? All right. Communications,
You want to do the school spotlight?
okay, we'll do that. We'll start with the school spotlight.
Mr. Packard?
Thank you, everybody. I'm very excited tonight to talk a little bit about some of the great things that are happening at Charlton Middle School. We have a number of groups and organizations that are doing wonderful things every single day. So it's very difficult to pick out a couple of things that I want to spotlight. But the two groups that I'm bringing forward tonight, I think really epitomize what middle school is all about. They work hard, they study, they work on their social skills, they work on just being good citizens and just taking the most and making the most out of their opportunity. So first group I'm going to bring out is going to be my show choir group, our award-winning show choir group, Mirage. And then our second group, absolutely, hold on, will be my leadership team. We're going to talk about a community service project we've been doing. We get a chance to recognize and culminate that event tonight with an award given to Darlene Emco Rollins of the Food Pantry in Town Chipping. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Charlton Middle School, Charlton Middle School, Mirage.
Our only defense to brave the wilderness.
octopus, this is the exodus. They're just testing us. They can't flex with us. They can't mess with us. They can't mess with us. Oh, through the wilderness, all come living together. There can be loneliness. Oh, our hearts are mess, but it's our only defense to break the wilderness. Cross my heart and hope to die. Taking this one step at a time. I got your back and you got mine. Oh, one foot in front of the other. Ooh, hey. One foot in front of the other. Ooh, hey. One foot in front of the other. Oh, through the wilderness, how come even together there can be loneliness? Oh, our hearts are a mess, but it's our only defense to break the wilderness. Cross my heart and hope to die, taking this one step at a time. I got your back and you got mine. Oh, one foot in front of the other. That nothing's gonna take you down as we push your way down. I know we'll go before we go. Only the I'm not afraid to lose it all. I'm gonna win the war. Win this war. Knock you right off of your feet. I'm gonna defy the odds. Hallelujah. Praise the gods above. The gods above. I'm gonna defy the odds. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna defy the odds. Hallelujah. You got the power, you got the power. Right. Your friends are in high places. I'm standing by my side. I'm gonna last until the final round. I'm gonna get up each time you take me down. 'Cause I'm a survivor, I'm a fighter, and I'm still standing in spite of it all. Oh, I'm coming up from behind, gonna knock you right off of your feet. Slingshot to your weakest spot, aiming for a total defeat. I'm gonna defy the odds, sing hallelujah to the gods up above. Show me some love when push comes to shove. Sing praise to the gods, I'm gonna defy the odds.
Thank you very much for allowing us.
That was
Thank you.
great. Thank you so much. That was
So, Mr. Chapman, yes, they'll be with you very soon.
Yeah.
Absolutely sure of that. So those children work so hard each and every day. It's amazing. I love the opportunity that they get when they can go out and they can perform and really showcase their skill set. So we're very proud of them. So thank you very much, Karen. Thank you, kids. Appreciate it very much. My second part of the show tonight, I want to bring in what I call my rendition of the Fab Five. You know, 1991 in Michigan, when they had those 5 recruits come out and they took it all the way to the national championship. My Fab Five, I want to bring them out here right now. I got Jenna DeFosi, I've got Emma LeClaire, Sophie Zazek, Rachel Gormley, and Maggie Mullally. So They're going to talk to you briefly about the leadership club that we have here at Charlton Middle School, which focuses on about 43 5th and 6th grade students who want to learn about leadership, want to learn about community involvement, want to learn about making their school a better place. We're very excited, and I'm going to let them speak a little bit. And Jenna, why don't you go first?
Hello, I'm Jenna DeFosi, and I'm in Mr. Packer's Leadership Club. I joined the Leadership Club to help others. I think a leader is a person who wants everyone to be better. I also think they want everyone to be on the right path. Leaders listen to others rather than just talking. They have confidence in them and others. They want everyone to be driven. Leaders aren't afraid to take a team on a new path. But the bottom line is, they want everyone to succeed. Next, we have Emma Leclerc.
Hi, my name is Emma Leclerc. I am part of Mr. Packer's Leadership Club. I've been in this club for 2 years, and I am here to tell you why I joined this club and what leadership means to me. The Student's Dictionary defines leadership as the quality of those who take charge or show the way. I think leadership means leading people in the right direction. I also think it means talking to people and hear their ideas. Leadership means being a leader of those who are not capable on their own. I joined this club because I want to lead people on what they are not capable of and help them improve by leading them through it. I also wanted to help out in the community with jobs that don't relate to school activities but make me a better leader. Next, we have Sofina Zazik.
Hello, my name is Sofina Zazik, and I think leadership, being a leader and being part of Leadership Club means to volunteer and help in your community, to show others how to behave properly, be a role model, helping people in need, for example, Chip In, Charlton helping people, it's people in need. I go to Chip In not just to help, but for fun. Also, I think of teamwork, working together to reach a common goal to help others. Leaders take charge or control in a good way. Leaders make teams and lead teams. That is all I have to say about leaders. Now Rachel Gormley.
Hello, my name is Rachel Gormley, and I am a 7th grader here at Charlton Middle School. I am one of the ambassadors of the Leadership Club. To me, being a leader is to lead a group, and that's what we've been doing at school this past October to collect cans for Chip In. We have collected over 600 canned goods that fill about 26 boxes of food for Chip In. All this food was collected from this school, and that shows how much we want to help our community. Thank you for your time. Now Maggie Mullally.
Hello, my name is Maggie Mullally, and I'm a 7th grader here at Charlton Middle School. If you don't remember, we were here last year talking about Chip In also. This is my 2nd year and the only 2 years in the Leadership Club. I'm on the 1 out of 2 7th graders in this club, so technically I'm also an ambassador. In this group, we learned about what leadership is and how we can be a leader. A leader is someone who takes control and is not in a bad way, but they also stand up for what is wrong, and they try to make any environment a better place. Last year we accomplished going to Chip In, helping to raise money to donate somewhere, and starting to change the school to make it a fun learning environment. I would like to see this year in this group to stretch among the boundaries. What I mean is we want to help out at the Masonic Home, play games at the Senior Center, tutor kids at the Heritage School, and still working hard at Chip In. We got over 650 cans of non-perishable items donated, so that makes about 28 big boxes of food. That then was given to Chip In. Wow, over 650 non-perishable items just from 4 grades. It's just amazing to think about hundreds of kids from each grade actively showing support and pitching in to help something or someone in need. Chip In is such an amazing place to be, and I don't care if I have to give up my own time to be there. Thank you. The month of October has been designated to the Community Connections. Through donations from staff, students, and community members, we've raised over 650 non-perishable items, and the money to support their campaign to feed families in need. I'm very happy to present this check to Darlene for $2,500 to support her cause.
story behind this can. So our collection stopped last week, and a little boy came into my office this morning and said, Mr. Packard, I never had a chance to give to the donation. Could you please make sure that Chipin gets this can of soup to help out? So Darlene, this is an extra special can of soup. Make sure it goes somewhere special. So I'm going to let Darlene speak for a moment. She's been in charge of Chipin for quite a long time. She's going to tell you what $2,500 can do for families in this community, which is a significant amount. So, Darlene?
This is going to take care of Christmas and Easter for us. I'm open every month, once a month, used to be twice a month. We have over 250 families registered in Charlton, which is unbelievable. Today alone, I picked up over 4,100 pounds of food. And this is just for Thanksgiving. I still have deliveries of the fresh fruit and vegetables, which we have to pay for because we have no supermarkets in town like Spencer and Southbridge do. So I have to pay for all mine. So any fresh produce I have to buy, my turkeys I have to buy, and with this money I'm going to buy hams for Christmas and all the fixings for Christmas. Toys for Tots is not doing anything anymore, and we used to get the leftovers anyway. We're the only place that gives out toys for the needy in Charlton. Where the church, their giving tree usually goes to Southbridge. And people don't know that, but we give to Charlton only. So with this money, everybody in my community, in our community, is going to have a fantastic Christmas again because of these kids in this school. I couldn't do it without you. I really couldn't. And I've been doing it now for over 18 years. And it's mostly alone. And just the donations from the community, I can still do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And what I think Darlene didn't say, when she goes to purchase turkeys or meat for 16 cents a pound, she can get them through a federal program. So when we talk about how far $2,500 can go, it can make a difference for a lot of families.
I have to pay for my turkeys full price.
Oh.
I get 37 allotted to me by the MEFAC, which is Massachusetts Emergency Food Program. They just allot me 37 free ones.
Okay. So
But I have to buy all the rest, the big wide. And this year, I guess the top price is $1.29 a pound. I'm getting for $1.19. So I
Okay.
go around and call I start in early October, trying to get the best prices for.
well, it's still a lot of turkeys. So
Yeah, this is Christmas hams.
Christmas hams as well. So thank you, folks. Thank you for allowing us to present tonight, and we take great pride in helping you out, Darlene, and we're going to continue this
I
relationship.
couldn't do it without you, Mr. Packard, in the school. The
And
school has
thank
been
you
the
for
best.
doing all that work. And
It's humbling, and when the kids start like this, I started my Girl Scouts and Brownies for Troop of 22, 18 years ago, for community service. I lived in Charlton all my life, and I never knew there was such a need for food. My first 15 customers were all from Southbridge. But the word got around that. And we serve everybody. We say no to nobody. If someone comes from another town, they still get food, but they also know where to go for the next time for their own food. Where anything like this is going to food. Only food purchase. We don't have to pay anything at the town hall. We don't belong to any churches or the town hall. I'm not under Robin or anything. It's just my own little thing. And it's actually in the school I graduated in '72, in my same homeroom I graduated in. So, and it looks the same. Except the Boy Scouts did do a little project in it, and it's fantastic now. But I still have the old ceilings and holes and the chalkboard and the clock and the. But it's okay, it works. I know the clock. It works. But without these kids, these leaders, these coming up leaders, places like Chipin and these little organizations that are community services will be nothing. This is where it starts. These parents of these children have something to be proud of. And these kids are just, I can't say enough about them. I love them like my own daughters. They're just fantastic. So I guess we're going to have more than pizza this time. They're great.
thank
Darlene, how
you,
do
kids, too, for all your help.
people give to your organization? General public,
I
like
get
us?
donations, they can just send it to the town hall, 37 Main Street, in Chipin's name. I get food donations left at my door. A lot of times it's food donations because their great grandma died and it's used peanut butter in 1985 cans, but, but I like the public to know that when I get anything given by these people, by the school, everything is checked for dates. It's like fantastic. I don't have to throw a quarter of it or half of it away. The donations, just because these people are hungry, if I can't eat it, I'm not giving it to them. and something that says 1917 or something like that, you know? And sometimes you believe the bloated cans and people think it's okay to give, and rusted, and happy with peanut butter and frosting. And you wonder why that somebody would actually think that I would give it to somebody hungry if they're not gonna eat it. I mean, I have people living out in the woods where I will collect, you know, like boots for him. He's a vet, he gets paid, but he has 2 dogs, and those are his life. So he lives out in a camper, in somebody's property, way out in the woods. So we keep him warm and fed, you know? And it's things like that Charlton's all about. It's these people that are too proud to get food, even though they need it. I mean, I have the opposite side, but 98% of the people that come to the food pantry are in need. And I've delivered at the baseball field because people have too much pride. And I do deliver to the handicapped and people. I'm a hospice nurse, I'm an RN, and I deliver at home. And it's all volunteer. And during the holiday weeks, I'm at Chippin more than anything else. And that's my life. And these kids are helping me. They're my angels. I can't say enough about Mr. Packman and what he does, because if I say any more, I'm going to cry again. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
That this is under new business, and it's under 10A, recognition of students, the Superintendent's Award this evening of Academic Excellence, and the Principal's Award. So, Dr. Nash, do you
Thank you.
want to start?
Well, talking about pride this evening, when you hear about these next 2 students, you certainly will be filled with pride. So you saw the beginning of this, and this is one of the reasons why you do what you do, and all of us do what we do. So it gives me great pleasure this evening to introduce the 2 recipients of the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Certificates of Academic Excellence. Now, the caveat for the first student is that he is not here this evening, because he is right now at dress rehearsal for Mr. Shepherd Hill, and that is tomorrow evening. I think if we were holding our meeting at the high school, he would be able to sneak out, but this individual is not here, but I want you to hear about him. So, the first honoree this evening is Eric Chrisman. Eric is our first recipient. He is currently ranked number 2 in his class. He has a GPA of 4.3. He has been class treasurer for 4 years. He has been a member of both the drama club and student council for the past 4 years. In addition, he's been a member of the math team, the foreign language club, the Game Changer Mentors in Violence Prevention group. He has also been, no surprise, a member of the National Honor Society for the last 3 years. And interestingly enough, something that you do not find too often in high schools, he has received the Perfect Attendance Award in grades 9, 10, and 11. So we'll see what happens in grade 12, Mr. Chaplin.
We're going to count this as napkins.
Okay. He has also received Academic Excellence Awards in French and History in grades 9 and 10. He's currently taking 4 AP classes this year: AP Stats, AP Spanish, AP English Literature, and AP Physics. In addition, in grades 9, 10, and 11, he did not receive a grade lower than an A-. In all of his classes over the past 3 years, 23-plus classes, he's never earned less than an A, A-, A+, or a straight A. In fact, he's earned 17 A+, 5 A's, and 1 A-. He plans to pursue a career in medicine and become a cardiologist. I had a conversation with he and our second honoree the other day. So it gives me certainly great pleasure to award the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Certificate of Academic Excellence to Eric Chrisman. So we will see that he gets his award. Mr. Chaplin and I will make sure that he gets that tomorrow. And we'll have to get a picture taken. Our second honoree, where is she? Emma. Come on up and sit right here. I know. Come right up here to the table.
And Mr. Chaplin will come up too.
Yes, yes. Yeah, he has his honoree
Yes.
afterwards. Okay. Our second honoree, not to be outdone when you hear this list, is Emma C. Whitehead. And I met Emma the other day, and I think I've met her before, anyway. So let me tell you about Emma. Emma is first in her class, to no surprise, a GPA of 4.45. During her years at Shepherd Hill, she's received a number of academic awards, as you can probably imagine. In grade 9, the Algebra 2A, CP Biology Award. In grade 10, Chemistry Theory, AP Biology, Spanish, Pre-AP English. In grade 11, Spanish again, and AP Chemistry. She also has received the Lim Foundation MIT Award for Excellence in Mathematics and in Science. She was the RPI recipient, medal recipient, and first honors recipient in grades 9, 10, and 11. She's been a member of the National Honor Society for the past 3 years. She's been a peer tutor, a member of the math team for the last 4 years, a science fair participant, a member of the welcoming committee, and in her junior year, she completed an internship in Worcester Poly Institute's Army Research Lab. Emma is also a member of the Shepherd Hill Cross Country team, as well as the indoor and outdoor track teams. She's taken a number of AP classes. She has taken 5 AP classes to date: AP Biology and Physics and English, Calculus, my favorite, and Chemistry. This year, she's enrolled in another 5 AP classes: AP Stats, AP Spanish, AP English Literature, AP Physics, and AP Environmental Science. In all of her classes to date, not to be outdone, she's earned 3 A's and 18 A pluses. In her sophomore year, Emma finished the year with A pluses in all of her 7 classes. In college, I think when we talked a little bit, you wanted to pursue a career in medical research, if I remember correctly. So it gives me great pleasure this evening to award the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Certificate of Academic Excellence to Miss Emma C. Whitehead. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Dad wants pictures. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, Mr.
And we
Chapman.
have one more.
And then we're going to break for
No break,
all
we
our
break.
pictures. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll get a chance to take
Take
pictures,
those.
Dad,
Yeah.
after this.
So I have the honor of giving a Principal's Leadership Award every year. This one is special because when I first came here 3 years ago, this whole crew was sophomores. And during the first month of me being there, the sophomore class president came out, the sophomore advisor, class advisor, faculty advisor, pulled me aside and said, "Listen, Bill, that group of kids right there could run this school right now." And he was right. I'm gonna honor Gina Yu tonight, who's there with her mom. And I've often said to them, "Do you want to run the school? We'll switch for a week." I'm the only one hesitant because I don't want to take their AP classes that they're in. Their GPA would go down. So, listen, Gina's really smart. I'm not going to go into all the A's, and she's never had anything less than an A, okay, her whole time here. She's been in the class of 2019 council all her years. The Women's Select A Cappella Group, National Art Honor Society, National Honor Society, volleyball, Principals Advisory for the last few years, Superintendents Advisory this year, High School Quiz Show this year. She's had many awards, excellence in Spanish, National Honor Society, writing. So she's a strong academic. That's why she's here. She's in the top 10. My pick is usually in the top 10. I'm not gonna tell you where she is. She's high up there. But she's really down to earth. I can always go to her at any given point. She's funny. Not funnier than me, but she's funny. She's down to earth. She really represents Shepherd Hill culture with pride and excellence. She's active in and out of the classroom, strong member of the community, committed to doing what's right, and is always chasing excellence for herself and the people around her. She challenges herself academically. You pick an AP class, she's been in it. But also, a part of Gina that's really special is that she has a creative side to her as well. Taking risks in her artwork. She's a member of the National Honor Society. So she takes risks in her artwork, her illustrations, her designs, drama productions on the Hill. You know, not many people know this, but she has a YouTube channel. You've come a long way since the 5 days of without Wi-Fi. Remember that 3 years ago? We're going to show that. Is that okay? No. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But she has a really creative side that stands out, and she's not afraid to take those risks. And that side of her, the academic side is strong, but that side of her is really going to take her far. Her goal is to earn a Bachelor of Science in Biology and a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Illustration and Design, which would feed both of her passions. She's the daughter of 2 Korean immigrants and will be the first generation Korean immigrant and the second in a nuclear family to attend college, which is great. Several of her achievements described in her bio. She was at the same WPI Army Research Lab last year with Emma. And she gained really good real-world lab experience, which we love. Every time I say, hey, you know, she put in her bio, I've had the pleasure of having to eat free food at the honors dinner every year. She's funny. You know, I'll email her and say, hey, we're going to have the principal's advisory. You have any ideas for lunch? You know, she goes, how about Taco Tuesday? You know, we haven't done that yet, but we're gonna. Another big impact, and I'm gonna close it out, Gina. Okay. Oh, good. Another big impact is when, so when she was the now sophomore class president, okay, came up to Gina and told her this year that Gina was a pretty impactful person when she was coming up on Step Up Day when she was an 8th grader. And she listened to Gina, and Gina gave a lot of advice that day, which she does to all these kids that are in Charlton and Dudley, and told Gina that what you said to me that day impacted me. So when I came here as a freshman, I really wanted to reinvent myself and really make new friends and really put myself out there. Now she's the president of the sophomore class. Not saying that Gina had anything to do with that, but there's some connection there. So this is who Gina Yu is. Someone that will own her future, I have no doubt, and is why she was my easy selection for the Principal's Leadership Award this year. So, come on up. That's yours. There's a little bit of mug in here. So we'll take pictures.
Yes.
Pause and take pictures.
All right, so we're back in session.
I have communication.
Yes. And that brings us to Roman numeral 7, which is communications.
Yes.
Dr. Nash.
I do have a communication. As of November 14th, which is today, I did receive a letter from the president of the Dudley-Charlton Teachers Association indicating that they are eager to enter into negotiations for a successor agreement to the contract, which, as you know, expires at the end of August, I believe it is. So I will be in contact with the 2 members of the negotiating team, Mrs. Terry, Mrs. Kabbalah, to set up some prospective dates in the future. And that's it for communication.
Okay, and our members, do we have any communications this evening? No? And I do not have any this evening. That brings us up to Superintendent's Report,
Yes.
Special Topics Report,
Topics,
Dr.
yes.
Nash?
Yes, last month's meeting, you had asked that I contact Mars to get a estimate or a cost proposal for looking at conducting a district reorganization study, looking at 3 departments in particular: central office, administration and support staff, finance and related operations, and facilities, including buildings and grounds. I had a number of conversations with Steve Hemmen, who is the Assistant Executive Director for Mars, who was able to provide me with a preliminary, really, cost estimate that I share with you this evening. He indicated to me that Mars charges a flat rate of $90 per hour plus transportation. And he indicated that while he could not provide a specific cost because that would be based on a number of factors, such as what documents we would have ready for review, including such things as job descriptions and other types of documents, as well as having interviews with individuals in the organization to determine what duties they may perform in addition to what their job descriptions may include. But he was able to give me an estimated cost. This estimated cost would cover only the following departments or areas: central office, finance, and technology. And it would not cover SPED, it would not cover facilities, it would not cover teaching and learning. And that estimate is a low of $12,000 to a high of $15,000. So that's what I have for you this evening. I've also provided for you some potential other options. There are a couple of other options that we could look at, the committee could look at. One, the most obvious option would be to postpone all of this and wait until a permanent superintendent comes on board and let the permanent superintendent lead that. That provides a lot of challenges. I've outlined those for you, at least some of those challenges, the most pressing being time, the organizational structure that we currently have with people in interim positions. But the other proposal, which is really, from me, it's a way of moving forward. I'm not wedded to it, quite frankly. It will certainly take time on a lot of people's part, including the administrative team that I would have to tap. But that proposal would be to try to do one aspect of this, which is just central office, and to do this in more of a collaborative manner where I would task out some of this to individuals who either head the department or play a chief role in the department. The biggest caveat to that, and I think one of the things that is important to put forward is, from my perspective, when you ask people within an organization to study their own organization, that presents some challenges, presents a lot of challenges, because in some instances you're asking them to look at their own positions and in particular to recommend something different. And so as I spelled out to you, the caveat, for me anyway, to ensure that there was any kind of a neutral approach to any kind of restructuring recommendation, should the committee wish to move forward this way, would be that as the superintendent, I would have to act in an affirmative manner to be able to evaluate the efficacy of whatever proposals they bring forward. There has to be someone who does that, other than those, I think, who are directly involved. And even as your interim, I think that presents, however, some challenges. So I'm not wedded to this. I bring it forward because I know that some committee members, certainly may be concerned about the cost. And the concern I have is we have momentum going forward. I don't want to lose that, and I think that's, where it comes from also. I'm more than happy to obviously entertain any other discussions. So I just bring that forward for consideration.
So, does anyone want to discuss this first before Dr. Nash goes on? What do you think that what choice we have? She did give us at least 3 choices.
I'll raise my hand. I have had some time to contemplate this because one of the workshops that I attended at the MASC conference last week was from the Dedham Public School Systems that did a reorganization of resources. From that presentation, I really started to think along the lines of our need to really clarify what it is that we're looking to do. And I know in the communication Dr. Nash has given us on this issue, she has always focused on the fact of anything that we're looking to do is with the intention of impacting student learning. So it's very easy to disconnect and think that the central office operations are a separate thing regarding the education that's happening in a classroom, but they are the backbone to allowing those things to happen in the classroom. So I know that the cost of what Mars is presented, we can first focus on what the cost is. I would like to think that we might want to work a little further on clarifying what our target is, what our mission is. And I'm, in my head, working with some of the information from Dedham, so I'm sorry I can't share that with you right now, because I don't want to lose my train of thought. But first and foremost, we really need to look at what is our focus, what is our mission in doing this work, with the goal of enhancing the education that we provide the students in the district, in conjunction with what we have available to us for resources. And what Dedham ended up doing was rethinking and restructuring how they provided resources to deliver a better educational outcome for students. It's a pretty extensive document file that they provided and available, and I did make that connection, and I sent it to Dr. Nash. It's not a short conversation, it's not a simple conversation. This was a year of from the original starting point of what are we looking to change, which was their outcomes for students, how their students were performing, and then doing that analysis of all the different facets within the group, how they would want to redeploy things to impact outcome, and then create that plan and move that plan in place. So currently, right now, they developed this in 2016, 2017, and did their first year of implementation in 2017, 2018, having phenomenal results with it. I think it's a study that's worth considering, because I don't want to limit our conversation first and foremost to the one thing that we looked at right now, which was the Mars option. Dedham actually had the basis of their approach done on studies that were done of their special education operation and their ELA delivery within the district. I think it's something that's worthwhile for everybody to turn around and take a look at, have a little bit of a further conversation. I believe strongly that we need to keep moving this conversation forward. I think we need to look at what we can do with utilizing our staff within central office, within the district, to make sure that we have a clear understanding of the role that they have in their job, what they're doing, and then take that information and then clarify what it is that we're looking to do, and then maybe we're looking for other resources to help provide us the direction that we need to go forward. That's just my thought. I also did have a conversation with Steve Henman at the conference, and Steve, you know, said to me, we're here to help you with whatever that you want to do. We can talk about the price. So those are the two things that I present to you from the conference.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think this is a critical point in our district where we have several very key positions with interim people in place. I can tell you from a policy subcommittee review standpoint that every time we attack any policy, we hit up against inefficiencies in how we're doing business. That's not to say that we don't have really great people doing a lot of really great work, but we keep coming up against things that we say, well, why are we doing it that way? Why does it take 3 people to do that job? Why can't we do this more efficiently? And it's bigger than just a subcommittee can take a look at. I think that utilizing people who are in the district to evaluate their own jobs is a really difficult and challenging, thing to do, and pretty impossible. Everyone has their own view of the world based on what they're doing, and you're kind of too close to the situation. And I think that even if we're looking at it from a money-saving standpoint, where perhaps it's more expensive per hour for Mars to come in and do the evaluation, and come up with a recommendation, it would take us twice, 3 times, maybe 10 times as long to do the same amount of work over a lengthier period of time, utilizing people who already have a full-time job. So I don't think that that's a very efficient way to go about doing it. The other point I want to make is that, like with anything, the structure beneath the house is the most important piece in order to deliver the best efficiencies. So if we don't put in the infrastructure that we need, and that is taking a look at all of these departments, central office, how we're doing business, and really analyze it and see how we could be running more effectively and more efficiently, then it makes it even more difficult for us to deliver the best education to our students with the most efficient utilization of our financial power.
Anyone else? Okay, so, Mary, do you want to make a motion?
I would make a motion to proceed with Mars assisting us with the analysis and recommendation, with the caveat that we revisit potentially a different cost model.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I can't justify spending up to $15,000 from looking at other cuts that may be coming along. We've been told that we're going to have another tough year, even though we had the override, things are still tough. And I could not support that. You say we could have another, what does that mean, another scale? What does that mean? Did you hope they would go down on their price? But we don't know that.
Well, I think with anything, we can turn around and look at the scope of the job that we're asking them to do. Mars works on an hourly rate.
Right.
So he's giving you a cost estimate with no idea of what you have in place for them to come look at. So the whole concept of coming in and having job descriptions for everyone that works in the areas that we're looking to do is a factor. Do they have to come in and write job descriptions, or are they starting with a document that they might need to adjust and amend? Those things, when you're looking at an hourly rate of someone having to write job descriptions, if they have to write 10 job descriptions and it's an hour per job description, there's $1,000 on the table. So knowing how they work, and I've seen their comprehensive report, it really depends on what they're going to walk into. That's where I said if you really turn around and structure what is there and you do all of the upfront work for them and you're coming in and you're using their expertise for analysis, then that could impact the cost of what they do. But if they're creating from nothing, then your cost is going to soar. Mm-hmm. Is it something that you turn around and you use them for facets of the piece, and maybe we're not looking at, I mean, to some degree, I have the idiom in my head of, penny
wise, pound foolish.
Thank you. A situation where it seems like a big sum of money, but cost effectiveness for what could be for savings down the road as to how the operation's running. The Dedham proposal in itself, when they restructured, they ended up saving $200,000 for a better outcome for students, for a better delivery mechanism for teachers. So, that upfront cost of what you might have paid for a consultant to come in to give you that foundation to look at things ends up saving you money. So it's an upfront amount of money that in the scheme of things is very insignificant when you have the efficiencies and the outcomes that you desire.
Now, can we cap it at 15,000, or you're going to just hire them and we're not going to know the price? Depends on what they do.
I think he's given you an estimate based on comprehensive reports. I think that it would probably be my recommendation that we look at really kind of writing a scope of what needs to be done and having materials in place for him. If we say, you know, they bring in, so for instance, I know Mr. Matthews is very familiar with Perry Davis, who has worked with Mars, is a consultant with Mars now. They turn around and they look at their pool of consultants and they say, you're the expert in the fiscal end of it, we send you that consultant. We turn around and say, we have a consultant that their specialty is facilities, they come in and bring that consultant. It's not gonna be one person. It could be the job or the project will be divided amongst multiple consultants.
But how do we know the bottom line of the cost once we vote for it?
Well, Mary's motion is to
Do
go
more
for the
research on
proposal,
it?
which he's given us a high figure, somewhere between 12 and 15. It's our due diligence to prepare for them to come in to make sure that we are running an effective job with him. So to the point that Dr. Nash might go back to staff and say, present me with your job description, and we have a folder of job descriptions already decided, we have organizational charts, and we have all the foundation materials, you know, in place for them, and they're coming in now and just scheduling interviews and talking to people. I don't know what exactly how it works. I'm just going off of the information we've been provided. But I do know, you know, from what we had originally talked about and looking at these operations, and then kind of taking a new lens on this with the workshop that I went to, that we can, you know, you could form a committee of people from central office, whatever, you know, and put people together that are working on a committee that are accountable to preparing materials and working with him and streamlining it. So he could be then delegating, you need to compile all this information for me by the time I come back, so that's not, we're not paying them to do the research. We're providing them the research. They're giving us the analysis.
Would it make more sense then to wait till we get our act together, so to speak, before we decide to hire them? Because we don't have these things available
We
right
really don't
now.
have the bottom line either of the
We don't have
cost.
these job descriptions.
I don't know what you currently have. I
Right.
have not had the availability to look at all of that.
I
And
would-
the second question is, they could be job descriptions, but unless the school committee has approved them, they're not
Yeah.
valid
Correct.
job
So that's
descriptions.
what I
So
think, yeah.
the reality is, and then speaking with Steve, you're exactly right, Mrs. Rabbit. I think part of the difficulty is not knowing what documents you may need
Right.
and ask for. The study is a little bit more comprehensive than just looking at central office,
Right.
because, as he indicated, he would look at technology, and finance is obviously part of central office. We could scale that back a little. If you look at it, I've got some samples of reports. He did send me those reports. I didn't make you copies because I didn't think the one that dealt with central office was as applicable to what you're looking for. The nature of what this district was looking for was a little bit different as I read the report. But, you know, certainly we could say, the committee could vote for a figure, and I could say to him, this is what we need to work with, and this is all you have. So are you able, given that figure, to create the document that we want, which is really to come up with a recommendation for a variety of models, and there might be multiple models for reorganizing central office, including finance and technology. Is that doable? Is that workable? You know, again, he said to me a couple of times in conversations, I'm somewhat shooting off the top of my head, because again, I don't know until I get here, or have deeper conversations, but given what you've sent me in a couple of emails, given our conversation on the phone, this is the range. I do believe that it's probably movable, and I just don't know where it will end up. So I wanted to give you the highest and what he gave me as the lowest. Could it be lower? Could it end up 10,000? It could very well. I just don't know until I do some further review and probably a little bit more discussion with him as to exactly what are the documents you are looking for. Right.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Are we clear enough to you as to what it is that we're looking for you to guide the conversation with Mars as what would you need to come in to answer these questions?
I have said to them that you are looking for a model or a proposal for reorganization initially of central office.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's where we began our conversations, not more than that. I did explain to him initially that it was these 3 areas that we were looking at, but when he gave me the figure for central office, I stopped at that point because I know that based on the report that Glenn Kuchar had submitted last June, it was really focused more on central office, and therefore I narrowed that down. You know, whether you want me to focus on something different, you know, it's really up to you.
Would it make sense to the committee? Because first and foremost, I think this conversation originated out of an organizational chart to the superintendent's office that had everybody in the central office technically reporting to the superintendent. And our goal was, how do we turn around and create processes within this so that there are definite lanes and the superintendent is more overseeing people who are overseeing things. The goal was to take all of it off of the superintendent, ultimately being responsible for it, but the superintendent should be a manager of people, not the manager, manager of people who are managing people, not the manager of all. That's where we first started this conversation. And I know that subsequently we've turned around and we've talked about student outcomes and whether or not we can find other ways of utilizing our resources for greater outcomes with students and greater value for the financial impact of it. That's another whole conversation for me that I know that are interrelated, but that for me is the Dedham piece. The Dedham piece is really based on utilizing resources for student outcome. Central office is, to Mrs. Iantasi's point, is the foundation of all of that running. Do we want to first and foremost just look at that piece and seeing what that would be? Because looking at central office and technology alone isn't going to be, I would doubt that it's $15,000. I don't know. It's hard to separate them out because they are connected. But I definitely think that if we want to clarify things further and define it further and then make some decisions based on that, then do we discuss it in December, or do we move forward? The central office piece still needs to be defined. I'm very concerned that we're in the process of looking to hire a new superintendent who would take a look at that organizational chart and say, there's just no way I'm gonna come in and be able to manage all of this facilities. We don't look efficient and organized for that role. That needs to be clarified. We need to fix that.
I think that would be the intent of the study.
Correct.
Whatever the proposal would be, to come back with an organizational chart that clearly defines people's roles, responsibilities, and who they supervise.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have that in place prior to a new superintendent coming on board. It also would look carefully at the current positions that you have in central office
Mm-hmm.
and how those could look different based either on a different job description for it or whatever, a reorganization of it.
And I'm concerned, the only thing is, in the motion, I really don't want it to go over the 15,000. And Mary said you're going to try to get it somewhere in the middle.
Well, what I was thinking is that we would want to include those interconnected
Right.
pieces, central office, finance, and technology, but we would somehow want to find out from Mars what they would need from us in order to most effectively stay within that budget.
I have a couple questions. So the first one, I'm just trying to think about our superintendent search and that we have a new person coming on board.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that, I'm thinking if I was coming on board as a new superintendent and I'm going through the interview process and I know where we are now, and then all of a sudden you change the structure after I've been after I've been nominated or appointed, without that person having a voice in that, I kind of feel that that might make someone feel very unsettled. And I'm just wondering if it's possible to have, can we get all our information ready to go and have the new superintendent be informed, and then maybe once we've hired this person coming in, maybe we can get their information too, how they feel about that, and have them kind of have some type of.
And that was one of the suggestions for
So
Dr.
sometimes where you have positions, for example, when we did the transition in Oxford, the permanent superintendent came on board, I was leaving. The superintendent-elect had been hired around mid-March.
Okay.
And so what we worked out as part of the transition plan, because we had positions to fill, a little different but the same in some way, was who would be doing what piece of it. So I did this piece to this, and then she did the selection. So my job was to get her to the finalist round, and then she selected. So in some ways, having an organizational structure in place is certainly important, and having probably some permanency to a position in central office would be important from that perspective. In this case, I think there's one position that is an interim position, the curriculum director. So whether that would change significantly, and then it would be whether or not the permanent superintendent would then make the selection, whatever that position would be, which is typically, what you would probably have that conversation with. And dependent on the superintendent, they sometimes want to roll in it. Sometimes they will say, no, I'm good, I'm coming on board, I'm closing out my district, and I'm coming on board July 1st.
Okay.
So that's, to some degree, answers a piece of your question.
Okay.
I think the challenge that I saw, I don't care how experienced you are, whether you hire someone who's got all kinds of experience or no experience, is getting to understand the organizational structure before you make decisions. So it's listening and learning before you act. And that is going to take someone a good, half of a year at least to come in, get to know the people who you currently have. So that's the disadvantage, in waiting and handing that off. Also, coming into a district new and all the other challenges that you have as a new superintendent. You compound that if that superintendent has no experience at all and is brand new to the position, then that just gets elevated a little bit more. So there are, disadvantages or more challenges to waiting, but certainly, it can be done. It really is up to the committee as to which way they want to lean and whether or not they want, Mars or an outside organization to come in and do that for you. You probably could get the figure down. I mean, maybe to 10,000. I don't get a sense it's probably going to go much below that, but that's just a gut feeling on my part. That's not with any conversations I've had. My next step would be probably to bring Mr. Hemming in, to spend more time looking at what documents we have and to see if I could get that figure, more defined once he realizes, the number of people in the organization, although I did give him that information preliminarily. I said, this is our structure currently, this is what we have, and this is where we are kind of looking at as far as what department we would like you to focus on. And that's where he came back with this rough estimate, if you will. Yeah.
And then my other question is, Mr. Matthew, where are we budgetarily that we can do this?
As there was no planning for this in the initial budget creation, these funds would need to be budgeted from contingency and charge the appropriate line item afterwards.
And what percentage of our contingency do we have left?
I'd say if we were to include this proposal, I think we're down to about the 75% level.
Which is how much money?
About 75,000.
And can I further ask a question? If you had a student, like say we had a student that was going into an out-of-district placement, does that comes from a different fund? So we don't have to worry about.
Well, we're always worried about shifts in our
Yes.
budget, whatever that shift is and wherever it comes from. But yes, it would potentially come out of the circuit breaker, and
Okay.
therefore it would be a cost going forward for next year's budget, as we've already The committee has already voted on positions that we've needed to add back in, and we've also had some conversations with the current sped director about potential shifts with students coming in from out of district, students going out. So it's just a very volatile line item. Yeah.
And that's why I'm concerned about the cost, try to keep it down. And I think, Mary, you're the one that could probably do it.
Oh. Me?
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would think that it makes sense to go back to Mars with some questions of, we have some cost concerns with trying to keep this in a field, and we prefer to try and keep our costs in the $10,000 range. In order to get us in that vicinity, what work can we do up front to make your introduction to this process smoother? Because that's where we feel we can assist you in helping us meet our budget. And I, would look to see what they come back to with us for that. So if we already know that we need to make sure that there's a job description for everyone in central office, verify whether or not it's been approved by the school committee, and if not, we know that we need to get those job descriptions on a December agenda, then we can have that step in place. That's a main factor. Whatever other documents he needs to review, I think the goal is to then give him all of the ingredients and then let him create the organizational recommendations that we need to do.
I agree. I think any legwork that we can do would only reduce the cost. But perhaps we should modify the
Motion.
the motion.
The way your motion says, he could charge
Yeah,
100,000, we have no
right,
cap on
that's
that. I think we should do more work before we make this motion. I think we should wait and get our act together. I don't think our act is together, actually. We don't even know what we need, we don't know what, I think he should come, the Mars person should come and tell you before we
Right.
contract with him, we could have any cost. He said 12 to 15, but that could be wrong.
Yeah.
Could be 25, there's no
We
cap on.
definitely
Yeah, the
want a
motion
cap.
did
But there's no
have a
cap in your
cap, yeah.
motion. Your motion says hopefully we can get it down, but it doesn't say we have to. You're hiring him with unknown, there's too
Yeah.
many unknowns. We don't even know what we have in place to give him without his coming out here first to tell us.
Well, can we have him come out and we can talk
He
with
he was prepared to come out, so we can
Okay.
invite him
So
to a
I think
future,
we'll do that
invite him to the
before,
December
and then
meeting.
we'll know definitively how much the cost would be and what we have to do to keep the costs down.
We can ask him to come to the December meeting. I had talked with him about coming this evening, but then decided, that we would wait and see how the committee, we didn't want him to make a trip if the committee was not leaning toward Mars, but I think, given the conversations this evening, would make sense. And I can also have a conversation with him, with the potential of hearing where you're wanting the cost to come in lower and see what that would entail on our end
That's
in
good.
preparation for it. But it would be good to probably have him at the next
Yeah.
meeting.
So, you can give back who was the second?
I was mine.
Okay, and then Mary, you're gonna withdraw your motion. Okay, so I
table
think
it.
we'll decide to have him
Mr.
come in
Hammond
to
come.
speak with us.
Okay. And in the meantime, I'll contact him, have a lengthier discussion to see exactly what documents we could provide for him in advance that would keep the cost, lower the cost. Okay.
It might be helpful, Dr. Nash, to ask him if there's a checklist that he works off of when they
Yeah.
come in.
I didn't get, I sent him quite a bit of information, and so it was somewhat nebulous and a little bit, and so I think maybe, I may even see if he wants to come to visit the district and have some conversations. I think sometimes that face-to-face, that works a little bit better.
Okay.
I'll contact him. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes, or you
That
have-
is on the
okay.
special topics, it
Okay.
is.
All right, so,
Budget timeline?
budget timeline, she's gonna do now, right? You didn't do that. Budget
The budget?
timeline?
It's on the
Did I miss it?
Superintendent's Report, budget timeline.
Yeah, special time.
I didn't even see it in there. Is it in there, Sandy? Did we have that? Okay. Yes. In your packet is the budget timeline. I don't know that I even have mine. Do you have yours in your packet?
No.
No. So we need,
So
Right.
maybe we can do that
we need to
next
do that
time.
in December.
Yeah.
There's not an urgency to it, but we
Okay.
have a timeline and process.
Right, which is good. We
um,
need one for the budget.
that I had put together, working with the Director of Finance, and we've, started our internal process with the information that the directors and principals received at our November EAC meeting, and we'll be meeting with them in December to do some of that preliminary discussions, but we'll bring forward to you at the December meeting, that timeline to take you right to June. And there'll be a couple of, I think, additional meetings that we need to schedule probably, so we'll put that on. Sorry. I don't know. It's on there, but I don't know why I didn't catch that. It's all done, too. Okay,
So,
that's it.
we'll go on to the next item, and that's the Director of Finance Operation Report. Oh, I'm Kaylee, how could I forget you?
No hard feelings.
You should have been first.
With all due respect, I understand you have quite the agenda to get through tonight, so I'm going to try and make it as short and sweet as possible. So first I'm going to start off with the music, and they had the biggest win over this past weekend. The Shepherd Hill Marching Band, they won the U.S. Band Eastern Championship this past weekend at Gillette. They worked incredibly hard. I don't know how many times I can say that, how hard the band works. I think the first meeting we talked about them being up at Shepherd Hill at 6 in the morning. But they were fantastic, and they put in their all this weekend. And if you could see the looks on all of their faces, especially you can look at the Twitter post with all of their pictures, and they were just smiling. They were so happy, and all their work finally paid off. So huge congrats to them. The show choir also had an overnight at Oliver Ames for the Bay State Festival. They're going to be hosting their holiday spectacular, and their theme is Radio City Music Hall. It's going to be the weekend of December 7th. And they have 2 fundraisers coming up. They're doing their craft fair this Saturday, November 17th, and they're starting a new Polar Plunge November 24th. And I don't have tons of information on that because it is quite new, but I think they're going over at Dudley Beach on the 24th, and for donations, they're going to jump into the lake. So that should be pretty interesting and fun. Hopefully they have nice blankets after that. Next up is going to be athletics. So besides the Boston Red Sox, I know we haven't met for a while, them getting the World Series championship, we have a few superstars up at Shepherd Hill. First, we're going to talk about Ingrid Lindstrom. She committed to Franklin Pierce University today to play Division II volleyball. Congrats to her. And we also have another student in addition to Emma, Gina, and Eric. Drew Montigny, he was the MIAA Student Athlete of the Month. He currently has a 4.54 GPA. He's the senior class president, and he is captain of the boys lacrosse team, and he's also on the leadership committee for the football team on varsity. So we have an amazing group of students going from athletics to the arts to the music, and I think you can really tell that not only are they motivated in school, but their activities that they have, I'm trying to think of the word, the activities that they're able to participate in at school, that really gives them the drive. You don't see one of these students who are focused on academics alone. It's always something else that's giving them motivation to go forth with their academics. And I think that's incredible, an awesome thing we do at Shepherd Hill to make sure we have a well-rounded student who's balanced in both. Also in sports, we have cross country. Over this weekend, the boys finished 5th at the district meet, and the girls are district champs, moving on to states. Football has the Chicken Bowl tomorrow versus Tantascwa at Thursday, home at 3:30. And cheerleading won. They're going on to the state finals at Worcester State next week, so good luck to them. In our community, 3 seniors to Quinnebog Valley Community College Decision Day. They made their decision this past week. We also had 73 seniors receive the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. This is the top 25% of your graduating class, and I believe you have to have at least 1 advanced in your MCAS and 2 proficient, but you can't have anything less. So we had 73 seniors obtain that, and they got a nice breakfast.
And the Dudley 8th graders, I know you heard about earlier today, you had the chip-in for Charlton, but Dudley over there, I think that's something we need to work on with combining the two. Dudley actually, their 8th graders alone raised 8,578 cans for their resistance program. And not to diminish the 650, but I think they need, there's so much passion over there that I think if some of the students get talking and motivated to help out, because I know Steve Ide over there, he's been running that program. He's doing a fantastic job with the resistance movement for their 8-1 and 8-2 students. And I think if over here you get a little bit more of the 8th graders before they go on to high school and get to really collaborate with each other, I think if maybe they have some type of joint community service that they can do together, because if resistance, like if they move their forces together, who knows what they could be, bouncing off ideas from each other. I think that'd be something great to see both Dudley and Charlton 8th graders combined before they get up to high school. Along with that, more fundraising and donations. NHS, they had their holiday food drive going through October 31st to the 19th, and they're starting their toy drive November 28th to December 14th, and they've collected canned goods, but they primarily do cash donations, which has gone really good because you have $1 and you're going through homerooms A block in the morning, and you have a class of 25 kids and they're each donating $1. That's 25 to one class. 4 classes makes 100, and so on. You keep going. The donations that they're getting is amazing. And then last up for just general activities, as you heard, Mr. Shepherd Hill, the male beauty pageant is tomorrow night at 6:30 at Shepherd Hill. If you haven't gotten a ticket already, I would highly recommend you get one. They sell out every year. It is the most attended event at Shepherd Hill. And some you have comedy towns, and others you have artwork singing poems, and they all choreograph and do this big, huge dance. And it's so funny sometimes to see some of the big guys really participate in these Beyonce songs, and it's a great, great time, and I highly suggest you come out for that. That's all I have for tonight. Are there any questions? No? All right. And I understand we're not meeting again until December 12th, so I hope you all have a great start to your holiday. Eat lots of turkey and stuffing.
And the same to you,
Same to
Kate.
you.
Nice job.
And you did a great job. Thanks. We enjoy having you.
Thank you. You guys make me feel so at home. I just
Oh,
come
we're a
here.
big happy family.
Yeah.
I called Kathy on the way here. I was like, it's a 7, right? And she's like, yeah, don't worry about it. You're fine. Thank you.
Thank you again,
No
Kaylee.
problem.
Can I make one correction to the polar plunge as a music parent?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, it got postponed until sometime in March. There were some glitches for getting it into December, was it originally?
It was November 24th.
November
That was
24th.
what it
There's a little
was.
too much winter, let's
So
be honest.
I did not want people racing home to get out their bathing suits and bikinis.
That wasn't gonna happen here.
We will let people know the updated. at some point.
And there's going to be a craft fair here
This
this Saturday.
9 to 4.
Correct.
It's 9 to 4.
9 to 4.
Thank you.
What's going
I
on?
know.
It's still cold in March.
I know, that's just as bad.
It is.
Okay, that brings us to Rich, the Director of Finance and Operations Report.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of items for the committee this evening. First, donations. Charlton Middle School received a donation of $1,398 from the Charlton PTO for the specific purpose of purchasing computer mice for the Chromebooks. Charlton Elementary School received a donation of $61.75 from Planet Aid. Charlton Middle School, again, received a donation of $3,475 from its Music Parents Association, specifically for the purpose of purchasing new risers. Additionally, Heritage Elementary School received an anonymous donation of $50 to be applied to the lunch balances of needy families that have been identified. A donation that is not listed here, that was late-breaking as this afternoon, is a donation from James Flynn, former music teacher at Shepherd Hill, wishing to donate the trailer that has been apparently passed down from music director to music director over the past number of years that the marching band uses, hauling equipment to and from performances. I ask that school committee accept
I don't
these.
get what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
It's a trailer that goes in back of the truck.
No, but what do you mean, he's buying one for the school?
No, he's donating the one that was built 30 years ago and passed from music director to music director.
They're not using it anymore?
No, he's just not the music director at Shepherd Hill anymore.
Oh.
And rather
I know
than,
he's up here now.
the question came up today of how to get insurance for it. The only way to get insurance for it is for us to actually own it.
Oh,
We can't
okay.
insure something we don't own.
Okay.
So,
So part of it is so that you can
Right.
insure it.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion to accept the donations that were presented by Mr. Matthew this evening.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries,
Could I
it's
just ask a
unanimous.
question about donations on the John Pierre Memorial? I know we've been giving out some checks, we signed the warrant for some, we never set, like, the rules. When are we gonna form a committee or something to, like, oversee how that's distributed? I had asked for that a couple of months ago.
yeah, I don't remember where
I don't
we
think
left
anything
off
came of
with
it.
Mr. Desto before he
Yeah.
departed, but it's certainly something that we can.
I think we should, because I know, I mean, I'm
Wasn't
not.
his wife going
I thought
to
she
take
was,
over
eventually I
some
thought
of
so, but we haven't got an update. I know we've been giving money, I mean, we're not been giving, but checks have been waiting to kids.
Mrs. Pierre actually stopped in my office a couple weeks ago, and they're still trying to get that
Okay, 'cause, yeah.
501c3
Okay.
incorporated.
So you were
and
setting
off
up
the
like
ground.
guidelines,
Well, that's what we didn't know,
criteria
because
for
we really don't have any,
selection.
do we have any guidelines in place, really?
It's been more unofficial.
That's what I mean, I think we should tighten that up somehow.
Codifying it certainly makes sense.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay.
As it relates to health insurance, I wanted to give the committee an update as to the FY18 operation. The Health Insurance Trust Fund had a very strong FY18. The fund balance at the end of the year is $1.8 million, a dramatic turnaround for the trust fund, an improvement of almost $2.1 million over the past couple of years. And this is really due to two things. One, a change to a single provider, which helped lower our administrative costs, and also, allowed for a little better management. But as important, if not more important, is the members' increasing sophistication as consumers of health insurance. We all know that no longer is it, what it was 30 years ago, and you have to know that it's cheaper to go to a minute clinic than it is to go to an emergency room. So, people are buying into that, and our expense levels show that. It's great news. We're doing well. I think it's safe to say, it can be assumed that we're not going to be able to have this level of success every year, but starting to rebuild this trust fund balance, I think is very important, and, we've done a good job. The Insurance Advisory Committee has been, on board with these things and gone out and spoken with employees, and, they're, everybody's on board, and everybody's pulling in the same direction, which is great.
And Rich, are you pursuing still the group that you wanted to?
That's my third point.
Okay.
My second point is senior plan renewal, the MedX plans for our retirees that qualify. The plan year is January 2019 to December 2019. Again, we've had a good year here. And the FY19 rate is proposed to be 50 cents lower than the FY18 rate. While 50 cents is not a major savings, the fact that a health insurance rate is going down is astounding in and of itself.
Right.
So I see this as good news, and I ask school committee to vote to accept this renewal.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the renewal with the new rate for FY19.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much. And now an update on the joint purchase group. The group, our insurance advisor group, Benefit Strategies, has held meetings in the summer and early fall to gauge interest in a local joint purchase group. I'm pleased to say that there is interest. There are about 6 communities, all local in the area, that our next meeting is actually scheduled for tomorrow at the Webster Library. And at that point, we're going to be working on the actual formation document, the rules of the road, so to speak, for the joint purchase group. It's not until we have that defined and we know who's going to be in and who's going to be out that And we actually go out to bid for what the rates might look like. The projected rates certainly are good. They would provide a level of savings to the district and to the employees, which is important. The most important aspect of joining the joint purchase group would be getting out of the health insurance business, taking away that liability for the district. There certainly are pros and cons to any movement like this. Being self-insured is fantastic when things are great. When things aren't so great, it's not so fantastic. So as this proceeds, and as each community alerts its governing board, I'd be more than happy to share the communities with the committee here. I will say that there's one other regional school district that is potentially interested, and every municipality that has expressed an interest and will be going tomorrow does indeed have its own school department. So there's no, there's nobody like Dudley that doesn't have a school department. So, the number of school employees will far outweigh the number of municipal employees if we decide to join with this group.
And what time is your meeting tomorrow, you said?
We start at 3, I believe.
Oh.
I'll keep the committee apprised of the updates. The timeline put out for forming this is very aggressive. I would lean towards saying it's maybe a little too aggressive, but it depends on the level of cooperation and work that we can get done between now and the January timeframe. So
Thank you,
we'll
Rich.
see where it goes.
Thank you so much. Okay, that brings us up to the Budget and Finance Subcommittee report. And Elaine?
We had a very long meeting before we came to this meeting. So our focus, we have been focusing on capital expenditures. And the most important priority that we have right now is discussion on the roofs that we have for the 2 middle schools in Shepherd Hill. We did have a conversation with the Garland Company tonight that came in and really kind of gave us a very thorough look at what the situation is with the roofs at Charlton Middle School, Dudley Middle School, and cost structures of where we could go for a restoration of those. I think the three school committee members with Dr. Nash and Mr. Matthew will turn around and say that we were pleasantly surprised that there's a potential for this being able to be done at a lower cost than we originally thought. But we are a long way away from moving forward. Mr. Matthew is going to be doing some further research for us, and I would anticipate that hopefully to be in a position at the December meeting to perhaps come to the school committee with something more clear that we might need to take action on. We're really formulating on how we would fiscally approach these two issues. But it was great to hear that it's not a resolvable situation with what we have. We also did take a look at our regional agreement, and that is has been looked at by Christine Lynch at DESE. We are going to look at amending the language due to current law and look at moving forward with that. And then we just had some very introductory conversations regarding the DCTA negotiations coming forward, and looking at general ledger software for central office, which Mr. Matthew is also working on. He has another item on his to-do list. So that is something that we would probably be coming to the committee for some action on within the next month or two.
And that concludes the report.
That concludes.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. Security Task Force update, Kathy?
Yep. Well, we met on November 2nd, Mrs. Terry, Dr. Nash, Mr. Matthew, and I. We were pleasantly surprised to find that back in 2015, our school resource officer, James Denise, did a wonderful comprehensive study of all the schools. He took pictures, what we have, what he thinks we should have. So we've started going through, I think the copies, for we getting, there are copies, if you want to pass them out.
They all have them. I have them in front
You're
of me.
welcome. Okay, you got them. Okay, all right. So if you look through that, it's very comprehensive, so rather than reinvent the wheel, we thought we'd work off of that. And Mr. D'Angelo came to our meeting also, because he's really up to what technology we have in the different schools, what security cameras. So we're not saying exactly what we discussed, because that should be done in executive session, but it's a wonderful report. And we decided the next meeting, Mr. Matthews suggested, we send a section of each school to that particular principal, because this is 2015, and things may be updated that we don't know, or the principals may have concerns that are not in that report. So basically, we're going school by school to see what we have and what we think we should have. We're not the experts, but we have experts. We hope to have the police and the fire and the building commissioner, I think, building inspector would like to be involved in it too. So we're working on that, but the report is very comprehensive, but it is 3 years old, so we have to update that and so on. So that's basically where we stand right
But
now.
you have a good start.
It's a
anyway.
wonder, rather than
Yeah.
trying to do it, it's all there for us. It's
That's
excellent. So we thank,
Any questions for Kathy?
Is there another meeting scheduled?
not yet, because we want to send those reports out to the schools, and that may take a little while for them.
Okay, next on the agenda is consideration of requests for overnight travel, and I don't know if you want to start first, Dr. Nash?
Well, I can introduce.
Okay.
Sure.
Mary is here
yes.
this evening.
Mary, our GAP director, is here this evening to come forward to present a recommendation for international travel for the next school year. So, Mary, and you have in your packet, obviously, all of the information regarding her request.
Good evening. As some of you know, for the past 33 years, Shepherd Hill Regional High School students, thanks to the support of this committee, have had yearly travel opportunities allowing them to encounter new cultures, practice different languages, and marvel at historic landmarks. It's also provided teachers with a unique opportunity for professional development that brings a global perspective into classrooms. And I strongly feel that global perspectives must be an integral part of 21st century education. As a result of advances in communication and transportation, as well as an increasingly globalized economy, students of today will have an even greater need to understand connections between people and countries of the world. And following our established rotation, plans for the April 2020 trip will include something beyond the traditional French and Spanish-speaking countries. We began doing that for the third year of the rotation after a trip to China in 2008. The proposed trip will provide an introduction to 5 historic cities in Eastern Europe. Students will better understand the horrors and devastation of World War II and the effects of the Cold War through firsthand contact with the locations where many historical events occurred. We will begin in Berlin, and next year, 2019, marks the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, an event that changed the world. And our students will have an opportunity to see where the wall separating East and West Germany actually stood and be able to touch the remnants of the wall. In Prague, they will encounter the legendary beauty of the former capital of the Holy Roman Empire. From there, it's on to Krakow, which was the only major Polish city that escaped devastation during World War II. They will encounter the classical features and beautiful architecture of its old town. They will also take a somber visit to the concentration camps of Auschwitz and Birkenau, where they will pay respect to the 6 million victims of the Holocaust. In addition, they will marvel at towering castles in Budapest and in Vienna. And Vienna was the residence of the powerful Habsburgs, who at one time ruled half of Europe. During the 12 days on the trip, students will experience an immeasurable amount of history, art, architecture, and culture that will provide real-world learning opportunities to enhance their classroom studies. Early planning and approval will allow our students to obtain a $200 early enrollment discount for enrollment on or before December 15th, 2018, and additionally, payments will be extended over a longer period of time. The group requests the departure date of Thursday, April 16th, 2020, and a return on Monday, April 27th. Participating students and teachers will miss 2 days of school on Friday, April 17th, and the return Monday. and I have requested a late day departure on Thursday, April 16th. However, it's possible that flights might necessitate leaving Shepherd Hill prior to the conclusion of the school day on the departure date. And should you approve this request, I would look forward to expanding the cultural horizons of our students and promoting a greater global understanding.
Any questions for Mary?
Anything she does is good.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so
I'll make a
much.
motion to approve the trip for April 2020.
And do I have a second?
Second.
And discussion.
I just have a couple questions, Mary,
Sure.
as I'm new to this.
Yes.
Do the kids have any like emergency medical insurance when they go on these trips as part of their fee?
It is available. Students can purchase it. Students and parents have that opportunity.
Okay, and then as part of the students becoming ambassadors of our school system, do they have to sign a contract for like any kind of like behavioral kind of
Yes.
contract? They do?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just not a question, as much information. There was a vendor that was at the conference that provides security orientation for foreign language trips.
Okay.
And more along the lines of what to do when events happen, and also as far as the areas that you go to. And I just wanted to provide that for you to look at it.
Thank you very much.
Because she really turned into, what do you do if there is an emergency? They've had situations where someone has died on a trip. What do you do? How do you handle it? If someone were to, have a medical issue, something criminal act, someone's a victim of something, and it was only $500. So I didn't know whether or not that was something that you might want to consider adding into the operation. I think we've talked about this in the past when students go, with the world being so volatile these days, that they work with the State Department, so they're or their State Department employees, I'm not too sure, but I just wanted to pass that along to you.
Thank you. And one of the reasons that I continue to travel with EF is because they have offices all over the world.
Right.
I mean, their European offices in Lucerne, and they have offices in Paris, they have offices in every one of the cities that we're going to visit. So they have that firsthand ability to assist in the event of an emergency situation. But this certainly is something to take a look at as well.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Okay. Everyone, no other discussion? All in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is Superintendent Search Committee report, and Ms. Novick, right, is here, so come up to the table. And
Thank you.
Elaine, as the chair.
Sure. I'm going to actually turn most of it over to Tracy to talk about, but I did want to do two things in public forum to update the community. Mrs. O'Coin and I did meet on Halloween, and we selected the search committee for the superintendent search. So just to announce those individuals publicly, Mrs. Carmignani and I are serving as the school committee representatives for parents. Brandy Booth is representing Dudley, Allison Lawrence is representing Charlton. We selected a teacher from each area of the district. So our elementary representative is Brooke Beverly from Charlton Elementary School. Our middle school representative is Adrian Daniels from Dudley Middle School, and our high school representative is Lawrence Dunn. The principal administrator is Mr. Starshevsky. Our municipal representative is Carrie Siganowicz. Siganevich. I have to prepare, and had no one to tell me how that was pronounced. Mr. Matthew is representing central office. Our student representative is Catherine Fengler. And our special education representative is Jillian Anderson, who's the co-chair of the CPAC, and Mr. Foley is representing the teachers union. So that was formed, everyone was notified, and the other update that we have is that based on our original timeline, we've also turned around and adjusted that the survey for the community will remain open until November 21st. I know that as Tracy is going out and meeting with focus groups, there's been an interest to try and promote that further. We still have not received the amount of response from the communities that we would like to see. So just as far as people that are watching or listening, both our community, our staff, our interested community supporters, the survey is available on the district website, right on the front page. If you go to the right-hand corner, you can click on the survey, and if we would appreciate your input. So as far as that is concerned, I know that Tracy can update us as far as where we are, and then I do want to jump back in when it comes to the conversation of School Spring.
In fact, with your okay, I would actually recommend leaving it open through Thanksgiving break, and people can do it as perhaps alums come back to the district, and think of it as sitting around the table, and you can fill out the superintendent survey as part of your turkey dinner. So as Ms. Rabbit mentioned, the posting did go live on November 1st. It's up on MASC's website. It has been sent to the full list of several hundred potential applicants. MASS shares it through their own membership process, and it is up on LinkedIn as well. The applications, I would say, at this point are trickling in. We received one, I think, late last week. That's due to two factors, I would say. One is that last week was, of course, the joint Superintendents School Committee conference, which means a lot of people were not even home. And the other is that I'm sure that a lot of people are anticipating the long weekend coming up next week. So that would not surprise me at all. Also, as I know that you've been told, as much as we all love our superintendents, they do tend to be late appliers for things. It's not uncommon for us to see 50, and then this year, for some reason, it's more like 70 or 80% of the applications coming in the last 24 hours. So don't panic. We see a lot of people putting that off until the last minute. At this point, I've had sessions with input sessions with much of central administration, with the secondary principals, with student council, with teachers at 2 of the elementary schools. I feel like Ms. Sullivan hears from me probably more times a day than possibly anyone else in the district, and is to be praised for her patience. At this point, I'm scheduled to meet with the Shepherd Hills staff this week, Charlton Middle School staff next week. The elementary school principals have agreed to sneak me into their meeting that they have together next week as well, and the Charlton Town Manager. We do have a public session, and so in terms of things that you could be sharing, this would be among them, which is scheduled for the 20th next week at the Senior Center starting at 5. So if you could share that as well as the survey. We've still been working things out with Dudley, so we're still hopeful that that will happen so that we get something in each town. But do, in the meantime, encourage people for next week. At this point, and I waited to make sure that I had the most up-to-date information, so I checked this evening. We're up to 154 responses on the survey. That's still heavily trending in terms of parents. It's about 76% parents at this point. Someone did something on the 8th. I don't know if it was like a reminder went out or something. We had literally 50 responses come in on that day. So whatever you did then, do it again, please. It may have been. The other thing that happened, and this is part of why we had this conversation around leaving it open, is when I met with the student council, they shared it on their social media and offered to continue to do so. So while we don't have a ton of students as yet, we have 5% students, we got that because of the students sharing. So that kind of thing matters. At this point, it's about 24% district employees, 18% graduates, and 23% community members. So actually, and I will say, by the way, that's trending really strongly in terms of graduates. So that's, I would say, a testament to your district that there's that much interest from people who have graduated from it. I don't want to give you all of the results at this point, but I did think it was interesting some of the qualities that people were coming up with already. Things like community, approachable, listen, respect, empathy, and a sense of humor. I've heard that a lot. So share the survey, share the public session. The search committee, as just announced, they'll be oriented on the 28th, so the week after Thanksgiving. Part of what they'll be doing there is setting up the future of the sessions. We'll be going through the open meeting law. We'll be going through how executive sessions work, the confidentiality agreement, the review of what we've gotten from the community in terms of input, and we'll begin the process of setting the questions based off of that, and also, as mentioned, in some ways that will be based off of their own positions in the community. There'll be another meeting then to set questions and decide on the semifinalists once the applications have closed at the end of the month. The week of December 10th is set to have that conversation, interviews in January, and then they'll be meeting and voting such that they can be announced to you on the 23rd of January. So that is where we are at this point. So we're in a good place in terms of gathering information. And given the place where we are in terms of superintendents and their schedules around conferences and holidays, I am not as concerned as I otherwise would be about the level of applications.
Okay. Any questions? Elaine, you were going to speak on School Spring?
Just wanted to discuss this in public because at the conference last week, I responded to emails on a daily basis regarding whether or not the posting was on School Spring. And I attended a workshop on searching for superintendent at the conference. And there is Sandy and I have been going back and forth and doing a lot of investigation with School Spring. There is an issue with the posting being on School Spring with the amount of access there is to the posting being on School Spring as far as internal people being able to see it. It puts us at risk because we are at this point in time running anything through the application process through the first round candidates is a confidential matter. Any access that breaks that confidentiality can put us at risk for a complaint with the Attorney General's office. And that was, an experience shared with me by another school committee. So at this point in time, we are looking at how a process can be run on School Spring under a separate account to just list the posting, so that I know there was interest on the part of the committee to post on School Spring. We're looking at being able to put up the posting as available, redirecting people to MASC, eliminating the possibility of any candidate who's interested in putting any information onto School Spring, which allows us to have the posting on School Spring and maintain the confidentiality that we need to do. And that's what we are fine-tuning right now. If that is able to be done, then we will be posting on School Spring so that the post is there. No applications will be received through that mechanism. They will be directed straight to Tracy, and Tracy will input them through there. But at this point in time, our responsibility is to maintain confidentiality through the initial phase of the search process, through that first round of interviews until the finalists are identified to move forward to the school committee.
And just in defense of School Spring, Sandy can restrict who sees the applicants. She can do it and just restrict it to the search committee and no one else. Administrators can't see it, teachers can't see it, because you did it for me once. You sent me something and you restricted me out of everything else. So School Spring is there to apply.
I'm not denying that, Pauline.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to do,
And that's confidential.
is to verify that process maintains that confidentiality and doesn't allow a candidate to ignore the instructions and go ahead and input their information. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we went back and forth with over the last, almost week, putting that in place. So now that Sandy has gotten confirmation on that, then we will move forward. We were just received late this afternoon the opportunity to set up that separate posting from the School Spring operation that we have at this point in time, 8 to 10 postings up. So the goal is to do it without putting anyone at risk and the district at risk.
Anyone else? And that concludes Very good.
At this point in time, I think the real, just to review, for the sake of the public that might be watching this, there is a public meeting at the Charlton Senior Center on the 20th November at 5 p.m. with Tracy to come in and provide community input, to share your thoughts on the superintendent search. The survey link is available on the district website. We truly encourage that. We'd certainly like to see our staff and our employees contributing to that information. That information is going to be what the search committee uses as we're looking to screen interviews. It's important that we receive your input. And now I am
I
concluded.
just have one other question. Is the whole school committee able to access those applications?
Not
What
at
is
this
the
point in
status?
time.
So we would not be until after the rounds are done, you get the finalists?
Until we come to the place where the search committee has determined the finalists for the school committee, then you would receive those applications.
And why is that?
Confidentiality factor.
I am going to call, though, the Attorney General's office because I was the chair of a search committee, and the school committee, it's in the minutes that at my last meeting, I did say that the members of the school committee could access the candidates. And they asked for it, and we gave it to them. So I don't know if that was right or wrong, according to, I wanted to see something in writing, and I asked Tracy, and she says, well, it doesn't actually say that. So I'm going to call the Attorney General's office and get a,
So let me ask this question, because if we open this up to the full school committee, who are not serving on the search committee.
You're not opening up.
No, to the ability for you to go and look at it.
Right.
At what purpose are we, I don't understand the purpose. If you've formed a search committee, we've looked for community representation, we've charged them with the responsibility, we've surveyed the school committee for what you're looking for, we're surveying the public, we've opened it up for people to turn around and do that. From that information, we're going to drive a criteria. At this point in time, with you having access to that information and looking at it, what is your hope that you're going to use that information for? Because you calling me up and turning around and telling me, I don't like this, or
Oh,
this.
no.
I don't understand the purpose.
Yeah.
I sat through the search in 2014. Wasn't on the search in 2014. I was a school committee member. We weren't given access to all of that. I wasn't aware that I was open to doing that. It didn't matter to me. My role doesn't come into play as a school committee member until those finalists are brought into here, and that's when we turn around and do our job.
You did have access to it, though.
Pauline, in all due respect, okay, it was never communicated to me. I took the role of the search committee to do that initial work on the behalf of the full school committee, to do the work of researching the candidates, doing the interviewing, and then coming back and making a recommendation. That was my role. I would not serve a purpose if I'm not on the search committee to turn around and look at that information. It doesn't behoove you. If we don't move that person forward, or do move that person forward, your role comes into play when we've presented you with a list of finalists. I'm really frustrated with having devoted so much time trying to put us in the position to do this properly, to do it correctly, to let the committee do its work on behalf of the committee, to have this conversation going back and forth. Curiosity isn't going to change anything after the fact. We, to some degree, put ourselves at risk with the last search, with, sitting administrators publicly being available to people, looking at things that you haven't signed the confidentiality clause that the search committee is going to be sitting down. We're responsible to not share information outside the context of that room as to who or who did not apply. Once we move forward, the only conversation that will come forward is with people that we have recommended be moved forward.
Elaine, last meeting, no one disagreed when I said that. And we are the school committee. We know what confidentiality is. We deal with a lot of problems that are confidential. So we know that. My thing is now that I really want to get a definitive answer on that, because maybe we were doing it wrong all along. When we hired Dr. Nash, the school committee had access to the applications. We had a search committee. So were we doing it wrong or were we doing it right? According to Tracy,
may I clarify, Madam Chair?
I did ask you, and you said, well, I can't really, it doesn't really show that.
Because what
But-
it says, Madam Chair, in the law is it actually talks about the exemptions rather than the specifics. The exemptions are not covered in superintendent searches. So as a public body, a local region, you are covered under the public records law, which is Chapter 4, Section 7, and it's Section 26 that actually lists the exemptions. There is no exemptions for superintendent searches. So did you have to release those records? No. If someone requested those records be released, yes, you would be required to do so. If you refused to do so, the Attorney General would force you to do so when that person appealed.
Wow.
It is entirely possible, Madam Chair, that no one asked you to release the records, or that if you refused it, that no one knew that they could appeal to the Attorney General. It's also possible, given the length of service of some on this committee, that they're familiar with the previous process where it was overseen by the district attorney. It being overseen by the Attorney General has held things to a much more strict standard. So that is the case right now. Any documents that the school committee receives as a body are public records and are subject to a public records request. So if you chose to move forward with something like that, we would first of all have to inform the applicant who already has applied. We would need to revise the application that is on the website right now and inform any future applicants that all applications would be released to the school committee and thus would be subject to a public records law. Thus, there could be no promise of confidentiality to all applicants. And I will say, based on MASC's past experience, which has included searches like that, because you can certainly move forward like that, you will not receive the same caliber of applicants if you choose to proceed. It is entirely your choice, but you will not receive the same caliber of applicants if you did not have a confidential search until the finalists are released.
Thank you. But I still am going to get a definitive answer from the Attorney General's office on that. Anyone else?
Can I make a motion? Bob wanted to say something.
Barbara?
I just have a question as a parent and as a school district employee. My understanding is that the purpose of School Spring is to cast a wide net, and since things are trickling in, and since we've lost a week and a half or so, I'm wondering if you consider extending the application deadline so that we can get it through School Spring, funnel it to MASC, but perhaps have that advertisement on School Spring, kind of the go-to place for educators to reach as far as we can to get the best quality applicants for the district.
That sounds sensible.
That's what I thought we could do.
If I want to respond, and I appreciate the comment, Mrs. Matarosian, but I'm going to reiterate what Tracy said regarding current searches in these applications coming in last. I do want to point out that when we opened up the search for the interim in the spring, I believe we had a 2-week window for it, and we received 25 applications. I don't think,
I
but
feel it's on
let me just finish the question. So we did not put a posting up on MASC until a couple of days before the deadline was due. It was never posted on MASS. It was never posted on LinkedIn. I'm not debating that School Spring is an issue. I don't see the need to delay the application process because of the tight timeline that we're on. As I've said earlier, we have turned around and we have clarified what we can do with School Spring in order to maintain confidentiality. However, and we could turn around and we could have that up tomorrow on School Spring, maintaining confidentiality. My main concern right now is what is the school committee's intent? Because if the school committee's intent, regardless of what the AG says, if we turn around and we're presenting right now that we're holding a confidential search, and we're going to turn around and change this and release all of the applications to the entire school committee, and now it is not a confidential search, before we do anything, when the application period closes, we now need to contact all of the people that have applied to determine whether or not they want to proceed with their application or they want to rescind it, because now there's a potential that their application can be public. All right.
I'm not trying to get entangled in the confidentiality.
That's two different issues. School
Yeah.
spring is not.
But I have no problem, as I've said and I've clarified earlier in this conversation, that we have now obtained the information that we need in order to know that we can go forward with a school spring listing to maintain confidentiality, restricting access to that information only to Tracy.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm just wondering,
Her
let's say it
question
goes
is-
up tomorrow
yeah.
and the access
I don't
is
think,
restricted.
I don't
Due
think the
dates
fact
till
that it goes
November
up on the
30th.
16th and closing out on the 30th is the same 2-week time frame that we had when we put up the interim post. I'm not concerned at all.
If we had less time with the interim though, then perhaps we had now, since we were starting this process a bit earlier, to have enough time to cast the widest net possible.
So the whole delay in your recommendation to do that impacts the review period for the search committee, the meeting of the search committee to try and get that done before the holiday period, so that we can contact people, so that we can have interviews hitting the first week of January. That's what the intent, to get through the interview period, not knowing how many candidates it could possibly be. Determine finalists, okay? Then go through and do site visits for both us going to visit them coming to visit us, to turn around to be able to put the school committee in a place to be doing their interviews so that we can make a decision for the February 23rd meeting. Moving that window 1 week is going to impact that timeline. And then you're looking at, we're looking at trying to have this in place so that if for some reason we look to extend an offer to a candidate and we can't negotiate a contract, we can reopen our search. So you need to be prepared, for something to not fall through, for something to fall through.
Okay, my question is would it be worth it to, that way you wouldn't have to reopen the search if you had a number of candidates, not a trickling in of candidates at first, but that's for you to decide, just a suggestion for
And
consideration.
Thank you.
There's two different issues here. Now I'm going to talk about school spring. At our meeting, we were talking about school spring. So why wasn't it done the way we had said? We wanted it on school spring.
Specifically,
And no one disagreed with it.
When we had the discussion for school spring, we also talked about having all of the applications come into central office and handling that. We turned around and said, no, we're going to move everything through MASC.
See, I didn't know
So
what you
we-
said.
we- we-
Let me just explain what I remember. Glenn Kutcher came here and said he did not like school spring because anyone applies, people go on there, and any Tom, Dick, and Harry can apply. So right away, he kind of put a negative spin on school spring, which I think is the one most people are familiar with. He polluted our mind then, but he didn't pollute mine, because I remember saying I would like it on school spring, and no one said no. So then the other thing is, you said specifically you wanted all the applications to go to the search committee and to bypass MASC. Now you're
Correct.
telling us, I didn't know that it
Right.
switched. When did that switch?
That was part of my update 2 meetings ago.
That it was going to MASS
Yes.
and not to you?
Correct.
Is that in the minutes somewhere?
I don't
remember
remember
seeing
that either. So,
So why can't, so school spring is not, you could not direct it right to you because you don't want it to come to the search committee? It's going to go to Tracy and,
One of the things that we talked about with school spring, and my issue with school spring, serving on the interim search committee, was there was no consistency with the information, the access, and the ability to see it. So we have a very streamlined process with MASC where there is an application to be filled out that everyone has to provide us the same information. So when we're comparing applications, we are comparing apples to apples.
I'm not saying to.
But this is the whole thing. It was to all be synthesized.
That's right.
So that they would prepare a complete document file, everyone would have a flash drive, computer access, and everything would be systematic and it would be the same. So the school spring process and the process that we've customized to what we want are two different things.
But I thought you could put school spring, I apply, I say, okay, I want to go to Dudley, so I'm going to send, I'm not going to fill out the form there. I'm going to go to the form in MASS. That's going to direct me to that. Why can't it direct it to us, the search committee? I thought that's what you had wanted.
No.
I didn't realize you'd switched that.
No,
I
because
must have missed that.
I'm also looking at the workload of Sandy, who would be the person who would be
That's
responsible
why I thought
for
we
all of
hired
this.
MASS, but you specifically said, I want it to come right to us.
That
You
was,
said that to us.
again,
I never knew you changed
I-
it. I'm not fighting you, Elaine, I just don't, I don't remember that changing.
No, I'm gonna stop,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Because anything with the process, as you go along, as you learn and you gain information, I've never chaired a search before. I didn't share the last search. It's the only search I've ever been on, and it was a completely different process than this one right here.
Right.
Is as you go along, you ask questions, you gain information, it's a fluid situation where you're changing it and you're looking to make it as effective and as professional as possible. That's all that I have tried to do up until this point in time, all right? At this point in time, I'm 50 hours into this process, and I haven't even looked at an application, all right? And all I've done is sat here and tried to make recommendations and decisions on the best interest. It's not been to subvert the process at all, but I didn't realize that school spring and confidentiality was an issue until I went to the conference. Okay, so I was raising an issue with the concern that was then put in my lap of why isn't it there, and then trying to, through the conference, research that, work with Sandy to get that information, which we finally obtained today, how we can go forward to do that, okay? You know, you can choose to do whatever you want. I serve at the luxury of the school committee. I'm the chair. I'm not running the operation. I'm trying to adjust to what you say. It came to my attention, it's not on school spring, I've been responding to that.
I'm not
Okay.
questioning the work you put, you've done tons of work. I just was confused, I didn't realize they weren't going to the search committee. I thought they were going to the search committee because you wanted to bypass
That
me.
is
I didn't know that changed.
information that's been out, it's information that's in the brochure, okay, that I've sent out. It's information that I've sent out, it's information that I've discussed.
I think MASC and School Spring are in competition, because I do think School Spring, there's a lot of confidentiality in it. And most people go to School Spring. I think that's why your applications are trickling in.
I went
right now.
online to look at School Spring and pulled up superintendents, and I found not one.
Yeah, it's not where superintendent searches go. And I understand that it certainly is where teachers go, but as I know Mr. Matthew can attest that people look for custodians and they can't find it on School Spring. People look for business managers, they can't find it on School Spring. There are particular positions that actually don't advertise on School Spring. One of them happens to be superintendents, and that's entirely why Mr. Kuchar was saying that, that this just happens to be a position where people look elsewhere. They look on MASS, they look on our website. They expect to see the applications coming out. So in terms of, and as I said, the applications not rushing in this past week, I wouldn't expect them to. Of the hundreds of superintendent potential applicants across the state, there were a significant number of them that were actually in Hyannis this past week.
And we're not the only search.
That's true.
Now, you said you sent out, you put out MASC, MASS link and so forth, and you sent it out to several hundred potential, what does that mean, several
We
hundred
keep
potential?
we keep a list of people can add their own names that they are interested in superintendent
Like a bank
openings.
of names of people that are looking for superintendents?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
It's not atypical, though, that I can tell you they all come in the last week. And MASC is generally where people go, particularly those who are aspiring. So this list, I have a couple of colleagues who are assistant superintendents in the South Shore area. I think I've spoken once about one in general. And they will typically check in with MASC. So they're very aware, and what MASC tends to know is, you know, who's out there looking, that type of thing. So not atypical.
And Tracy, you've already posted it, so I don't want you to start over from scratch. For my own use, I do want to call the Attorney General's
And I would recommend,
office
suggest
to
the legal
see
counsel
if
as well.
we've been doing it wrong, because we've hired many superintendents with a search committee, without a search committee. When we had, when we got the applications, the school committee saw them. We weren't the search committee. So I just want to get a definitive answer on that.
And I don't want to leave you with the impression that you did anything wrong, because if no one asked for the information, then you didn't do anything wrong, because what would have happened is if you had refused to release it, that would have actually triggered the violation of the public record.
Yeah.
So
But
if
where
that didn't happen.
You already posted.
Exactly,
said
thank
on
you. That
the-
will avoid at least one awkward and possibly more, depending on the week,
Yeah.
awkward conversation on my part, which I appreciate.
Any other
Madam Chair,
questions?
may I get clarification that we are keeping this as
I just said that. We are keeping it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was asking for clarification because I didn't quite understand that from what you said.
I appreciate that. That's a good thing to make sure that we're all on the same page on. And that means that obviously all of you have my information, so if you are trying to figure out where we're at any point, please feel free to contact me. But that means that unless you have a particular need of something from me, what you next will see from me will actually be the report, and actually it will come from Ms. Rabbit. It will actually be the report of the search committee with the finalist names and the finalist resumes. And then at that point, we can then move forward with your process, which will be a public process.
What do you do with the surveys, the results? Do we get those just for interest?
Yeah, so in fact, that was my question for you actually would be, I will be reviewing them with the search committee when I orient them on the 28th. If you are interested in having them at that time, I certainly can share them with you. I'll prepare a report which has the survey results, but also has the information from all of the, that's compiled essentially in a way that's readable from the various discussions that I've had with people. I can give it to you at that time. I can give it to you when we also come forward with the finalists. That is honestly entirely up to you.
I think it'd be interesting to see what people
Absolutely.
are looking for, so I'd like to know beforehand.
You may want it
before the
ahead of
interviews.
your interview.
Because we know what to ask, kind of.
Yes, yes. I mean, I will say that having done this a couple of times, that part of it is actually a really healthy thing for a district to have in any case.
Yeah, exactly,
Yes.
no matter who gets the job.
Through the chair, I just want to make one comment. We're all in this together. The amount of work that it takes to be on this subcommittee, and particularly to chair the subcommittee, is extensive. And let's all remember that this is all volunteer work on our part. So I want to congratulate and thank Mrs. Rabbit for all the work that she's putting into this. I think it's important that we not fight amongst ourselves and really look at this as a collaborative effort, that we're all working together, and as we find things out, we share the information and just realize that things come up that we need to react to and make decisions on that is for the benefit of the whole committee and the district.
And I've told Elaine many times you're doing a great job and all the hours that you have put in, and thank you for it. Anything else? No. Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Consideration of the 2019-2020 school year calendar, and Mary, you're the chairperson of the...
Okay, so the familiar crowd met for the calendar study group, and it went very smoothly. We decided on a first day of school on the 27th of August, with the previous day being the staff orientation like last year. That seemed to work very well. And then we also agreed that on the 30th, the day before Labor Day weekend, we would do that as a day off, just like last year. That was very popular for the long weekend and kind of ease the kids into the school year, followed by a 4-day week the following week. We have the professional development days, as you can see, laid out in the black. And we have 2 parent-teacher conferences for the lower grades scheduled out, and 1 currently on the calendar for the higher grade. And we had discussed options for the spring. Dr. Nash, we had discussed discussing that with the administrators as to what they wanted to do for the spring.
For this year.
Yeah.
Right, because those at the secondary level had not been clearly delineated as to whether they were going to be showcase or whether they were going to be parent meetings. And so the principals are working on that. I brought it to their attention. One of the things, if I might add, that I noted that the committee probably may want to postpone the vote is that we have not gone back to the principals to fill in the dates for the report cards and the term schedules. So while you can, if the committee so chooses to vote this evening, we would need to go back in and fill those dates in. Not terribly significant, probably if you're a parent, They're probably more concerned about, when's the vacation start, and so I can start looking at kinds of trips or whatever else you plan during that time. So I just wanted to point that out. I noted that. Apologize.
Okay. You'll notice that in December, the Christmas break is nice and long. The kids will like that, and that's because of where Christmas falls in 2019. So we started it on the 23rd, and it goes to January 1st. So that's a nice long one for everyone. And then we did also, in March, stay with the Family Comes First night that we've done for the past couple of years. We kept it in the spring because we felt that that was a better time to do it. The beginning of the year is very full, and there's a lot of things going on, so it seems like by March, everyone needs a little bit of a break, and there's a little bit more space there to do that sort of thing. And that's very welcome by the community, I know that. So that brings us to and I'll also note that on April 10th, we have a half-day. That's Good Friday. We stayed with that as well. And that brings us to a ending school year at June 11th, with the snow days denoted there.
Is this basically, I just have one question. I'm just saying it because I know in past years, on Tuesday, January 2nd and 3rd, the Thursday and Friday, was there any thought to get the 2 weeks off there? So
We did have that
rather than open the
discussion.
school for 2 days.
We did. We looked at, and one of the options I threw out was because of that, whether you wanted to close down. But I think we opted out to close school on the 20th. So this year, the Friday is a half-day. Next year, it will be a full day because school will be closed on the 23rd. Instead of having people come in, traditionally it would have been a half day on the 23rd,
Right.
which didn't make a lot of
Right.
sense. So the way we're looking at it is we'll do the 20th full day and give people the 23rd. So the option of adding 2 more days meant 3 days later in the school year, and I think that probably weighed on the group. They were fine with that 1 day, but
Okay.
2 more days. So
Okay.
we did have
Just-
that discussion.
Yeah, because I know in past,
Right.
sometimes we get
Right.
it because it's not worth it, the heat and everything.
Right.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Want a motion to accept this?
Any other
'Cause those dates
questions?
are
Chris?
important for the-
Can I ask one question?
Go ahead.
The idea of the December 20th day, has the day before a Christmas vacation ever been a full day before?
It used to be, and then we changed that.
And so how many years has it not been?
Kevin, is that like
Last
3?
year, half-day, wasn't
2?
It was a half day.
days?
Last year,
Is
a
that
half
what
day
you're
this
thinking?
year. Last year, I think it was a half-day.
2. Yeah.
It was a half
It's
day.
2 years. We just changed it
Right.
recently.
Okay.
So next year it will be a full day
full day.
because you won't be in on Monday.
God bless
Yeah.
those preschool teachers.
Right, well, it's a Friday, kind of, right.
Yes, we had the cost visiting.
Well, preschool is half a day. right? I'm sure they'll start planning.
I just wanted to add something that I think we're gonna have to look at as a group, is Election Day and how it affected, we worked it on Election Day last week. And having Heritage open, we're opening up the potential of people not being where they're supposed to be, and that happened a couple of times last week.
Right.
And we really need to either I know that we shut it down for presidential election, and I know because we shut down one school, we have to shut down all the schools. But there has to be something that we can do, whether we discuss it with the town, moving it to another place, but for the safety of teachers, staff, like students, it's something that was brought to my attention, and
Stephanie, I
think
don't
we need to-
remember, did we send them when we shut down, didn't we send them to Charlton
think we
Middle
did,
School?
but I don't know.
We closed the whole district.
We
made
closed
it
the
professional.
entire
We
district. Oh, we
professional-
did?
Made it
Yeah.
professional development
But we
days.
talked
accounted
about
for-
it then,
we
right?
switched it. Didn't we make it professional development days for the teachers?
Yeah.
You would know better.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
We make a
Yeah.
professional
Do you
development day
remember?
during the presidential election. We made it professional development, so
Yeah.
rather than have one later on in the year, we put it there, so we didn't lose the day, but the kids would know where.
But did we ever move the kids to here, Charlton
we
Middle?
talked about it, we
But we
did talk
talked
about
about
it,
it,
but
yeah.
I didn't, I
But
think
it never
was-
went through.
No, yeah, we kept it, because we had promised we would close it, and we
Okay.
didn't want to go back on our
Yeah.
word.
But I just think it's something that we need to
Look at.
It's,
You may want to have a discussion with the town to look at some potential other locations. It's always, an issue. In every district I've ever been in, schools typically are used as voting places. And so the yin and the yang is that you either close school down. In some districts, I think, again, presidential elections typically become a stronger turnout. I think this was a little bit of an anomaly based on just my conversations with some people this year for a midterm election that you got that many people. And I did get a parent email regarding that and did, direct her to speak to, town officials, since we really didn't, control that. We accommodate them and you want to work as partners. But I've been in districts where we've just closed, no matter what election, because the town clerk has asked that. And there are always concerns, no matter who is there. If you have a professional development day, it limits the use of your building, so there's a negative and a positive to that. And usually it's not the best time of year for planning purposes. We may want it here, and we're now locked into doing it here. So I don't know that there's an easy answer other than finding another location. And I don't know if that's always something that can be done in many towns. The school is the best place to hold it. It's the biggest place, and some towns can't accommodate it. I'm not as familiar with, Charlton and what they could or couldn't do. I know that Dudley probably votes in the town hall. So whether that, is something, I don't know.
I would ask to consider changing which school we use, and perhaps consider Charlton Middle School, because we have the availability of locked doors between hallways. We could actually confine any public use to this central location of either here or the gym, but most importantly, the parking situation over at Heritage is problematic because of the amount of walking for people that have mobility problems, or that I know it's problematic for Heritage. Having been at the polls for years, there's very limited space right at the doorways to go into the gym, and that is a frequent complaint for people that are coming in to vote. They have to walk up and down hills to get there. This is a flat entranceway back and forth, which I think is more accessible for people that are coming in to vote. I don't know whether or not this is a big enough space or it's too much of a walk to get people down to the gym. But I think security-wise, you can block hallways in this building, which prevents people from moving around. But I know that there were many people that recommended that the voting be moved to St. Joseph's Church. I don't know whether or not that's a consideration, but I think one of the reasons why we ran into a problem with this election is because there was a retirement of a long-term town clerk in Charlton, and our current town clerk wasn't really aware that it was her need to communicate with us back and forth as to whether or not we should be open or closed. She did ask, and we told her we can't close one school because Charlton Elementary and Heritage are on the same bus. So we either close all or we close none.
Okay, and Mary, the subcommittee did a good job on the calendar.
Well, I just have a question. Dr. Nash, do we need to wait to hear back regarding the spring parent-teacher conferences, however you wish to handle those?
We were talking about this year, so whatever we do this year is probably going to set the tone, I might think, for next year. But we do need to get back with other dates, so I think we can clarify that at that time and add in, the date that we need.
I think we should wait then until it's...
I mean, I don't think there's an urgency at this point that it needs to be approved. I'm probably more comfortable if we get the dates for the terms in and then clarify that also.
Would that add a half day somewhere, though?
I'm not sure. I think it depends on what it looks like. Yeah, that's why I think we need to add some clarification to that.
So shall we wait till December?
December, why
Okay.
don't we? I feel more comfortable if we do that.
Good job.
Yeah.
Okay, last on the agenda is MASC MASS Joint Conference, and Kathy, you were the delegate, right?
I
Oh,
was
it's-
not the
No,
delegate,
Jamie
Jamie was the
was.
delegate.
Oh, okay, but you can't.
But she did give me a report.
Okay, good, okay.
So, based on, I believe this was included in everyone's packet, but all of the resolutions passed except for Resolution 4, and that was the resolution on regional transportation. That was referred back to the sponsor for reconsideration after lots of discussion.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Were there lots of discussion on all of them?
I was not
Oh,
present
you-
as I was attending the new
Oh,
training
okay.
for school committee people, but that's what Jamie had written in her report, that it was discussed at length.
Okay. Any questions for Kathy? Okay, thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
So, next meeting date, school committee meetings, and it will be Wednesday, December 12th. Will be at Shepherd Hill Regional High School at 7 PM. Budget and Finance Subcommittee is going to be Wednesday, December 12th, Shepherd Hill Regional School, 5 PM. Policy Review Subcommittee, Tuesday, November 27th at 11 AM, Shepherd Hill Regional High School, and future agenda
We
items.
want to switch the budget to 4:30 again?
So we need to
Do you
have
wanna switch?
budget, where right now we're moving it to 4:30,
Okay.
but we might be moving it to a daytime meeting.
Oh, okay.
So
You can post it for the
we'll,
day. yeah, yes.
we'll be on the 12th, we'll post what the time is.
Okay.
But can I also add that the Superintendent Search Committee needs to be listed as a public meeting on the 28th for orientation. So we will be have that listed, we'll be meeting at this
Okay.
central office.
Yeah. And do you want to put
Yeah.
1:30 for now?
It
I mean,
says-
4:30 for now for the budget and subcommittee?
I'd put 4:30 for the budget and subcommittee, and the Superintendent Search Committee is meeting at 6:30.
And 6:30 for the Superintendent Search Committee. Okay. Future agenda items, Policy Review Subcommittee, and
We have the calendar will be coming back.
Calendar.
We have the budget timeline.
And typically, we put together a review of the various workshops that we attended at the conference. Because of timing and Mrs. Terry not being able to be here, I'd like to be able
you
to
want
have.
to do that next time?
If we do that on the 14th,
We
please.
also have Mars, Mr. Hemming, invited. I'll check to see that he's available on that date, too. Have an update from the Budget and Finance Subcommittee potentially on the roof and that.
Yes,
Okay.
and the software.
Yes.
Anything else?
Can I just
Kathy?
ask, if we can move Kaylee O'Brien's report a little bit further up front of the budget, I mean,
Yeah.
up front in the
You know, that's what I
agenda.
was going to
I just
talk
feel
to
bad that we
Dr.
kept
Nash.
this,
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
We can move her right after the spotlight.
That would be appropriate.
Yeah.
I just want to say in the past, that sometimes they actually stay for the whole
They
meeting.
tend
to do the whole-
Tuesday, I
Yeah,
just-
yeah.
Yeah,
Just in case.
some are busy, but
I
we
know
have
that, but I'm
past
just
ones
saying
that
sometimes
stay.
they will stay.
But I think it'd be better to,
Yeah,
we
that's
always
right.
had it at the
Yeah.
beginning.
Give her the option.
Yeah, if she wants to stay or not.
And so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? We're adjourned.